Solar United Neighbors, an organization that helps people and businesses go solar together. In our session today, we'll be presenting information on solar technology, solar cost and financing, and the process of going solar. So let's get started. First, let's provide an overview of who we are and how we got started. Solar United Neighbors is an organization that's a network of people taking control of our energy by installing solar and generating our own electricity. We originally started in 2007 when our executive director fielded a request from her son, then in middle school, to install solar on the family home. They found that living in Washington, D.C., it wasn't an easy process. It was a complex endeavor, costs were high, and there was very little consumer-facing information at the time. Our executive director, Anya Schoolman, looked at her son and said, if we're going solar, then we're going to take the entire neighborhood with us. It makes sense to pool time and resources, and by doing it this way, we'll be able to make more of an overall impact in the area. So from that point forward, the idea of going solar in a group or co-op was born. Going solar together erased the dilemma of information sharing. Folks could share information on pricing incentives, the best installers, financing, and the newest technology on the market. In that first co-op in Anya Schoolman's neighborhood, 50 homes went solar. Fast forward to where we are today, we've taken over 25 homes and businesses solar, honed the co-op model, and taken it to several states. Solar United Neighbors currently operates in 8 states and the District of Columbia. My name is Curt Macysyn. I am the first program director in New Jersey. I've worked in the public policy field for 20 years in areas like affordable housing and the energy sector. In my role as an executive director of a community development association, I work with another national nonprofit called Grid Alternatives to install a solar array on 10 units in Camden. The majority of attendees here tonight are going to listen to our presentation about the solar co-op, which has been a successful endeavor in Florida, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, and of course the District of Columbia. But I also want to advise for anyone who is not comfortable with moving forward right now or in a group process that you can join as a member of Solar United Neighbors and receive help as you install a solar system on your home. Moving on to this presentation, we'll break it down into 3 parts. We'll first discuss solar technology and then move into a discussion on how our solar co-ops work. Finally, we'll get into the interworkings of solar financing. I'm sure you'll have questions and we'll do the best to provide the answers that you'll be looking for. So we're going to break down the presentation to 3 separate sections. If you have any questions, please use the question and answer box rather than the chat screen. And if it's not covered in a specific section, what we'll do is we'll address your question as it comes up with Ian, my colleague from Washington, D.C. So let's begin. We'll start with a discussion of solar technology. What goes on your roof and how it works? Within the scope of our co-op programs, we help folks install solar photovoltaic panels or solar PV. Solar PV converts the energy from the sun's rays into electricity. You also may have heard of solar thermal technology. They convert the sun's rays into thermal energy used to heat water. But our co-op program focuses solely on solar PV panels used to produce electrical current. Solar PV panels are made of silicon cells. When the sun's rays hit the panel, they excite the electrons within the cells, generating electric current. The unit of measurement of electric generating capacity of each panel is called a watt. 1,000 watts is known as a kilowatt. A panel's wattage rating depends on a host of factors, but the wattage of a typical solar panel is anywhere from 250 to 300 watts. Generally, panels are 3 feet by 5 feet in size, and wired together, they form an array. Now, sometimes individual panels are called modules. Again, wired together, they form a solar array, sometimes called a solar system. Now, while the size of your system is measured in watts or kilowatts, the electricity produced by your system is measured in kilowatt hours, and that's written as kWh. Kilowatt hours may be familiar to you. You see that measurement on your monthly electricity bill. We pay for electricity per kilowatt hour in the same way your solar system will produce electricity in units of measurement of kilowatt hours. The amount of kilowatt hours a particular kilowatt of installed solar will produce varies across the country as solar radiation varies across the country. Typically, you can count on 1 kilowatt of solar producing about 1,300 kilowatt hours of solar annually. So what are the parts involved in a solar system? Obviously, we have the solar panels, whose wattage will vary based on the manufacturer and rating. Then you also have the inverter, or in some cases, a microinverter. And this equipment converts direct current into alternating current. Now, how do these panels connect to your roof? For that, you'll need a racking system. A racking system consists of rails, aluminum rails that the panels actually attach onto. And these rails will be fastened onto your roof using various technologies that we'll discuss. Racking systems are wind capacity rated to withstand hurricane force winds, and this will be enforced by your local code or permitting official. Now, there are different types of racking systems that are involved. Typically, the racking system will be attached directly onto the rafters of your roof. So whether you have an asphalt roof or tile shingles, those racking to rafter connections will be waterproofed using flashing or small metal sheets that slide under the tile or shingle at the connection point to shed off any water. Panels are fastened directly onto the racking system and then secured in place. What if you have a standing seam roof? The process for a standing seam roof is slightly different, if not easier. Racking systems are connected directly onto the standing seam line of the roof without any need for roof penetration. Solar panels are fastened directly onto the racking system. For flat roofs, panels are commonly mounted onto the roof via beams that span the parapet walls of the building. Parapet walls, as you can see, are the load-bearing walls at either point of the building. In this example, you can see the beams that actually span the 2 parapet walls. Solar panels are then secured directly onto those beams. But regardless of your roof structure or design, your installer will be able to design a system that fits securely onto your roof. Well, we've discussed once electricity starts flowing off your solar panels, then it'll pass through your inverter, so it's converted from direct current to alternating current. But then what? Well, the electricity will then flow through your meter into your home. Its first point of contact is your electrical panel. For most homes, the interconnection of your solar panels to your electrical panel is very simple and does not require an upgrade. But if you happen to have an outdated electrical panel or low amp service, installers will recommend getting an electrical service upgrade that comes at an upcharge of anywhere from a couple $100s to a couple $1,000s, depending upon your panel's design. Keep in mind, though, that this is a very infrequent occurrence, and most panels will be sufficient to interconnect with solar. So one of the considerations you were likely pondering is that is my roof good enough for solar? So here are a few considerations you'll want to take into account when asking that question. First is the direction of your roof. Does your roof have a proper orientation? Traditionally, solar has been installed on roofs directly south-facing. But due to technology and efficiency improvements over the past couple of decades, solar can be installed on roofs that face anywhere from due east to due west. So you can have an east-facing roof, a southeast-facing roof, a west-facing roof, or a southwest-facing roof, or the optimal, a due south-facing roof. You'll still want to avoid installing solar on a due north-facing roof. The second consideration is shading. Obviously, you don't want a lot of shading on your roof to install solar. While you can still physically install solar on your roof despite any shading cast by nearby objects, mostly trees, shading will drastically reduce the amount of solar produced by your system. This erodes the competitiveness of your investment. Keep in mind that solar can be installed on roofs that have a slight bit of shading at certain points in the day. Your installer will optimize your system so it will not be impeded by shading. If your roof has major portions covered by shading for large parts of the day, chances are it will not be appropriate to install solar. Third consideration is the amount of roof space you have available for your system. Typically, for a solar system to make financial sense in terms of investment and payback period, you'll need about 200 square feet of contiguous space on your roof in order to install the panels. Something else to consider is that solar works best when the panels can be mounted directly to each other and wired into a single system. If the panels have to be broken up into multiple different arrays that are installed on different portions of your roof, that setup can impede the efficiency of your system. It is technically possible to install those types of systems, but it's best to install panels on a single roof plane to keep the installation contiguous. And we talked about the microinverters, which help install those systems that are non-contiguous. So here's an overview of how all these parts work together. So you see in number one that the sun's rays hit the solar panel, excite the electrons within the silicon cells, and that produces electrical current. The electrical current flows off the panels in the form of direct current, so then it has to be routed through your inverter, denoted by number 2 in this graphic, where it's converted to alternating current or AC. The electricity then flows through your meter, as you can see, and then it goes directly into your home where it can be used immediately by any appliance that you have running. Now, the technical term for those appliances and that electrical demand in your home is called load. If your home or business has any load at the time solar electricity is being generated, the electricity will flow into your home and be consumed by the load at that time. Now, if you produce more electricity in your system than you're consuming, so say it's a day where you're not at home, it's a bright sunny day, and no one's home at that point, as you'll see in number 4, that electricity will flow out through your meter and onto the local electric grid. So what happens to the electricity that flows out of your home and onto the grid? Do you get credit for it? How do you get compensated? Well, it's a concept called net metering. And basically that's a policy that allows for the installation of a solar system to be a sound financial investment because it gives you the credit for all the electricity that you produce, whether you consume it on site or you export it back onto the grid. So this is a one-to-one offset of the electricity that your solar system produces. In times when solar generation of electricity outpaces consumption, as we mentioned, the excess electricity will flow out your meter and onto the grid. At the end of every billing cycle, thanks to net metering, you'll receive a credit on your bill for any of the excess electricity that your system has exported onto the grid. So once again, net metering is that your solar production offsets the amount of electricity that you buy from your utility. So if you look at your monthly electric bill, and because systems have to be installed based on previous year's consumption of electricity, the amount of electricity used is subtracted against the amount of electricity produced. And this gives you your net metering total. Now, utilities are required by law to let you net meter, and you'll receive a credit, on your bill, but typically you will still have some residual electricity that you will have to purchase from the utility. So what happens when the power goes out? One important consideration is that your solar system will shut off. This is a safety mechanism that protects those individuals who are working on the power lines. It's called backfeeding, and it can be very dangerous if people are working on the electricity lines and these systems are operating. So the idea that the sun may be shining doesn't mean that in cases of power outage that your system is still working. If you want to do that, you'll have to consider getting a battery system along with your solar array. Now, you might want to consider storage if you do have frequent utility outages and you're in areas where there is no city water and sewer, so you have to consider your well pump. Also, you might want to consider battery storage if someone in the home has urgent medical equipment that needs to keep operating all the time. And then in the third case, with emergency and disasters that occur in this area not as frequently as in other areas, you may want to consider battery storage as well. So one consideration for battery storage are those folks who do lose power from their utility company several times a year, and each time the power is out for an extended period of time. If it's just momentary lapses in power, we wouldn't recommend that you strongly consider battery storage, but if there are prolonged periods, and as I mentioned, people have medical equipment or there's well water, you might want to consider a battery backup system. Now, what will run on those battery systems are a refrigerator, a small white microwave, some lights, some outlet, maybe a cable modem. They're not really built at this point to power a larger stoves, dryers, electric water heaters, etc. And at this point, although costs are coming down, and we get this question frequently, the upfront cost of a battery system is around $9,000, and that's just for the storage system. So if you add that to a system where you're also going to install a solar array at the same time, you may be looking upwards of around $15,500 for that entire installation. So some frequently asked questions about solar technology. How about my warranties? Well, there are three types of warranties you'll have to be aware of: your product, power production, and labor. Product warranties cover your system components like the panels and inverters for product integrity. If something goes wrong in the prescribed period of time, then the manufacturer of the equipment replaces the product. In terms of your power production warranty, it guarantees that the electrical output from your system will be a certain percentage of its original nameplate capacity by the end of its lifespan. In most cases, panels come with a power production warranty of at least 80% by year 25. So what that means is that the manufacturer is guaranteeing that your panel will be producing a minimum of 80% of its original nameplate capacity up until its 25th year of existence. This warranty essentially ensures that your system will last 25 years. A third warranty to be aware of is from the installer to cover any labor or craftsmanship that comes from installing your system. The critical element of this warranty is that it does cover the roof penetration element of your system's installation that we talked about with the racking system. These warranties do vary from company to company, so it's advisable that you ask your installer directly what these warranties are. Now, people ask about homeowners insurance. And the short answer is that nationwide, we have not seen any trends where homeowners insurance does increase with the installation of a solar panel. If you happen to see that occur, well, first we advise you to contact your insurance carrier and advise them that you are installing a solar system. If you do happen to see an increase at that time, we would suggest that you shop other carriers because we have not seen a nationwide trend where insurance rates go up due to the installation of a solar system. What about maintenance? Well, as we mentioned in the power production warranty, these systems are very durable. They last for at least 25 years, if not longer. There aren't many moving parts, and maintenance is not often a consideration, although once in a while there are things that say an inverter may have to be taken care of. And really, how long do the systems last? The manufacturers would not guarantee a power production period of 25 years if these systems weren't durable and lasted for that period of time, if not longer. Will your HOA allow a solar system on your home? Well, New Jersey does have law that requires homeowners association to allow the installation of solar arrays on people's homes. This law was passed 10 years ago, and there are other safeguards for residents that also say that the increased cost, if the association was to mandate that the solar system go on the back facing part of the home's roof, cannot exceed 10% of the total system cost. And also, any restrictions by the association cannot impede the efficiency of your solar system by more than 10%. So therefore, if it so happens that your solar system will be placed on the south-facing part of your roof, which is the front, they can't require you to install it on the north-facing part of your roof, which would be the back, because that would impede the efficiency of your system by more than 10%. And then if you're in a historic district, you should contact the municipality or governing body to understand what are the requirements for installing a solar system in a historic district. So how do our solar co-ops work? Well, the solar co-ops have several benefits. One is that you'll get the best value on your installation and support through Solar United Neighbors throughout the process. We will also connect you with fellow solar enthusiasts, and you'll become part of a larger growing solar movement. What this means is that once the installation is done, it's not over. You'll want to monitor events to ensure that you are continuing to get the best value for your solar investment along the way. And that's where Solar United Neighbors is helpful to you. In terms of the actual co-op process, in the first month, you'll learn about solar. We have this webinar information session. You can also visit our website to find out more information. We just find that folks who learn more about the entire process from soup to nuts are best equipped to move forward with a solar installation. Then, if you're confident that you've gathered enough information through the solar co-op and other research that you've done, you can sign up online to participate in the solar co-op. Currently, we have in Central Jersey the Allentown co-op operating, and we are looking to get more people involved with that co-op so that we are able to move it forward in the process. If you're convinced that the co-op model is for you, the best thing to do is tell your friends and neighbors. The more folks we can get involved in the solar co-ops, the better chance we have at getting reduced pricing through our request for proposal process that will go to a solar installer. And as you see in number 4, once the co-op has reached 30 participants, we will be able to go out to request for a proposal or RFP for a solar installer. I can tell you this, that there are several installers very interested in participating in the Allentown co-op, and that they look forward to us gathering enough homeowners so we can move forward in that process. So what that process is that Solar United Neighbors issues a competitive RFP on behalf of the solar co-op, open to all installers who are on our list. And Solar United Neighbors is manufacturer neutral, it's installer neutral, so we invite as many installers who wish to participate in our co-op process to sign up to receive our RFPs. Once that's done, we will review the bids, which are the RFPs, call references, check licensing, make sure that the equipment is up to the standard that is issued through the RFP, and then we are able to put our selection committee together. And the selection committee is a group of co-op participants. They come together in a single night to review the bids and do select a single installer to perform the installations. And that process is done not just by Solar United Neighbors, but it is done by the solar co-op participants specifically. We are there to help guide the process, but we, as Solar United Neighbors, do not select the installer. In the last part of the solar co-op, we will, once we're reaching a deadline and have selected an installer, we're going to give folks one last chance to join that co-op and get the benefit of the co-op pricing. Now, once that happens, the installer is selected. That installer will make an individual site visit, and you will receive a customized proposal, but it is based on the solar co-op pricing. You can also take a look at other options that the installer may propose to you, including battery storage, or if you're interested in electric vehicles, you can also consider at the same time, if the installer does install level 2 chargers for electric vehicles, you can also consider doing those in your installation at one time, and it would actually make sense for you to do that. Now, each individual co-op participant will sign a contract with that installer. And that installer will go through the terms of that contract with you individually. Once again, this is based upon the solar co-op pricing. And then once that is all completed, the installer will install the solar system on your home. The actual installation of the system will take 1 or 2 days, but the reason we mention that it'll take 6 to 9 months, or this will occur in months 6 through 9, is that there are other issues that will take some time. Some of them have to do with what financing method that you're going to undertake. There's also a process for interconnection to the grid, and also you'll have to consider the fact that permits are going to need to be pulled from the local municipality. And once that's all completed, they will come and install your system, and that process should only take a day or 2. And then once everyone in the co-op is completed, we come back and we have a party to celebrate the success of the co-op, and you can meet your fellow neighbors and celebrate the success of going solar. As we mentioned, who picks the installer? Well, it's the co-op members. Co-op participants select a specific installer based on certain criteria, which will include price, equipment quality, warranties, and in some cases, are they a local company? So when you sign up for the co-op on our website, you will be asked what your main considerations are in selecting an installer. And we will aggregate everyone's answers and use that to, at the selection committee, select an installer that hopefully meets all that criteria. So part 3 is the section called Solar Economics. So some considerations to take into account while you're considering a solar system is that solar is priced by the watt and it's not by the panel. So regardless of, sometimes how many panels you may have on your roof, depending upon the efficiency of those panels, some solar systems with the same amount of panels may not produce the same amount of kilowatts. So that's something to consider. So it's not strictly based on the panels. So as I mentioned, you're just purchasing an entire solar system, not just the panels. So your efficiencies are going to be also addressed through the inverters or microinverters and the orientation of your roof and other considerations like that. Keep in mind that solar is a long-term investment. There are no moving parts. As we mentioned with the power production warranty, it has at least a 25-year lifespan. You're also hedging against the average residential utility rates, which will increase over time. And that's one thing that's a given, is that energy prices do rise over time while your solar installation will not. So solar is increasingly affordable. As we've seen, costs have dropped considerably since the 1970s. Solar is no longer a specialty or boutique project that you only see in certain areas of the state, because costs have gone down, and people have found it to be, who have done the research, have found it to be more affordable. Still, tackling solar can be a daunting task, which is why the solar co-op model continues to work, because information can be shared, consumer-facing information can be shared amongst co-op participants. So let's take a look, and this is specifically outlined for New Jersey. And this is just example pricing, just to give you an idea, a summary idea of what your cost may be. So we actually talked about the size of your system, and we have 2 examples here, an 8 kilowatt system and a 4 kilowatt system. And through our solar co-op, if we get an average cost through the RFP process of $2.75 per watt, the 4 kilowatt system will cost $11,000, while the 8 kilowatt system will cost $22,000. Now, there is a federal tax credit, if you're not aware of this, of 30%. That's the good news for everybody. The bad news is that this federal tax credit will be phasing down and then phasing out. So in 2018, the federal tax credit is at 30%, where it will also be in 2019. But in 2020, the tax credit goes down to 26%, and in 2021, it further decreases to 22%. In 2022, only commercial installations will have access to the federal tax credit, and that, unless the law changes, will only be at 10%. So right now, it is a 30% tax credit, and also the good news is that if your tax liability in these two cases is more than $3,300 if you're installing a 4 kilowatt system, or $6,600 if you're installing the 8 kilowatt system, that tax credit can be carried forward to future years. One other consideration in New Jersey that everyone should be aware of are solar renewable energy credits. New Jersey has a robust program. These are called SRECs, and they have helped hundreds of homeowners finance their system in the past 15 years. So as you see with the 4 kilowatt system, if you're looking at the $11,000 cost for the project with a $3,300 federal tax credit, and then some solar renewable energy credits, the cost of that system decreases considerably down to $5,900. For the 8 kilowatt system, down to $11,800. And I will tell you, based on what the projections are, and the SREC prices are around $220 in New Jersey, these are conservative estimates. Then if you go down and look at your year one electricity savings by installing the system, you're going to save $700 in just 1 year. For larger system, $1,400. If you take that over 10 years, an cumulative effect of $7,400 in savings to $14,900, and a lifetime savings of 25 years, which was that power production warranty. You'll see lifetime savings of over $20,000 for the small system, and the 8 kilowatt system over $40,000, which means it really is an investment because you're going to have a net profit of $15,000 and $30,000. Now, people often ask, what's the concept behind the SRECs? And basically, the solar renewable energy credits are they're commodity that utilities purchase so that they do not get caught with falling below the renewable portfolio standard in the state, which is the RPS. If they do fall below that, there's what's called alternative compliance penalty. And as you can see, the SACP costs actually more than the SREC. And so that's why SRECs have value, because utilities can purchase these to maintain their status in the renewable portfolio standard. And it is an alternative to paying this SCAP penalty. We've been asked recently about a tariff that was implemented in January on solar panels, imported solar panels. And while the 30% tariff on solar panels certainly wasn't good news for the industry, we did crunch the numbers and we found out that of the entire cost of a solar installation, the panels were about 13% of that entire cost. And here, is our breakdown of those costs. So if anything, the panel tariff had a minor effect on the cost of an entire solar array installation. And as you can see, that tariff will drop down and then phase out eventually over 4 years as well. In terms of some financing methods that will assist you in getting a system installed on your home, there are standard loans that are available. Also, if you work with a local bank, they may have a specific solar loan product that would be available to you. And then in cases where folks want a bridge from the time they install their system to when they get their tax return, you can consider a bridge loan. Another popular method that folks use to finance a solar installation are home equity lines of credit. Under the new federal tax bill, interest on home equity lines of credit was no longer deductible, but in cases of capital improvement, which solar panels are, you can still deduct the interest on those home equity lines of credit. Then there are third-party ownership models. Everyone has seen Go Solar, No Money Down. These are two types of models. They're leases and power purchase agreements. Sometimes these terms are used interchangeably, but they're not. So in a PPA or power purchase agreement, you allow the system to be placed on your roof in exchange for a fixed per kilowatt hour price, lower than the utility payment. In a solar lease, the owner is paying a fixed monthly rent or lease payment for the right to use that solar energy system. In both cases, the solar leasing company is the beneficiary of any rebate, tax, or other financial method. So keep that in mind as you consider your system. So let's take these utility electricity costs over the next 20 years with a power purchase agreement and a one-time purchase of a solar array. So on the left with the power purchase agreement, you see in year one that the costs are aligned and there's no difference because you're not putting any money down. Now, the blue line will be your energy costs without solar. The green line will be your energy cost with solar. And as you see over time, the power purchase agreement will allow you to save money without putting any upfront cost, although your savings will be a lot less than if you do purchase your solar array. So if we go to the right, you'll see that in year one, there is an upfront cost of installing that system, which is noted by the green line. But as we move further along, we see that there's eventually a crossover between what your cost would be with the system and without the system. Once again, this is a conservative estimate that crossover will take place somewhere after year 5, but somewhere before year 10 in most likelihood. So what you have to consider is that you are purchasing the system. Utility cost will rise over time, but once you purchase that system, you essentially are paying for electricity at current year cost, and that utility and electricity costs will continue to rise. That's why on the right side, you see that gap in year 20 increase exponentially. So as we wrap up, what we say about solar is to continue to do your research. Inform consumers will see all the benefits of solar, not only the financial, but also the societal benefits of reducing your carbon footprint. Terms are thrown around like PPA and SREC. Do look them up. Make sure that you're aware of what each individual term means, and do review whatever contract is put in front of you. Also need to review your electric bill. Understand your household's energy consumption. This way, when you are talking with your installer, the system that is being considered with your house will make sense to you. We hope that you'll volunteer to help support the Allentown Co-op by getting more folks in it. More folks we get involved in the Allentown Co-op, the better opportunity we will have for more robust savings through the co-op pricing model. It just works on the economy of scale, for everyone much better if we get a large participation in the co-op. So if you can reach out to your local friends and neighbors, in terms of the Allentown Co-op, we're looking in probably a 20-mile radius of the Allentown, Upper Freehold, Robbinsville area for co-op participants, which will still maintain the integrity of the co-op and get some robust savings for everyone. So what's next? Well, here's the information on joining the Allentown Co-op. There is no obligation to join. We will advise people that to the extent that you want to participate in the co-op, you can sign up. What will happen is we will take some information down from you. Ian, who is also on this webinar, will do a cursory roof review and pre-qualify you to join the co-op. If there are some considerations where maybe trees have been removed or are no longer in existence, and we come back with a review that says that you're really not qualified, before we get to that point, just please let us know in when you sign up that sometimes Google Maps is not the most up-to-date version of what your property looks like. So like I said, you can join the Allentown Co-op. We also have a listserv that allows solar enthusiasts to get together to spread the word about the benefits of solar, and also to ask any questions or to also participate in other events in the area to spread the word about solar energy. So we thank you for participating in this solar information webinar. It's the first of its kind in New Jersey. And if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer them right now.
Curt, it doesn't look like we have any questions right now.
Okay, thank you, Ian.
But I would just say that if anyone after this presentation does have questions, you can feel free to email us anytime. You can reach us at njteam@solarunitedneighbors.org. So that's NJTEAM@solarunitedneighbors.org.
All right, we thank you for your participation and look forward to hearing from you. Have a great evening.